My friends, welcome to another podcast episode. I'm Dennis Simsek, and you're listening to the Anxiety Guy podcast. I thank you for sending in all your success stories based around the Health Anxiety program. It truly is inspiring, and if you haven't started the Health Anxiety program yet and want to learn more, head over to theanxietyguy.com today and hover around the menu item Health Anxiety. Today, on this podcast episode, I want to share the moment. The moment I knew that I was healed from an anxiety disorder or multiple anxiety disorders. So I want to touch on my own experience today. And I hope that from this podcast episode, you will gain some clarity on things and you will give your new self and these new habits a chance to shine and come out throughout your day. The moment I knew that I was healed from an anxiety disorder was the moment I no longer cared whether I had a disease, an illness, a pain in my body. That moment was really interesting because I felt like, for the first time in my life, the body wasn't ruling the mind. And that gave me the opportunity to allow the mind to dictate what the body was feeling, along with the mind interpreting what the body was feeling. And many of you know that I suffered from health anxiety for a long time, but not only health anxiety, there was generalized anxiety, there was panic disorder, there was depression, there was OCD. There was all sorts of labels attached to me, all sorts of different identities around anxiety attached to me. And this caused a domino effect. When I no longer cared about a disease or an illness, I found that I could leave things alone. And that was empowering, my friends. It was so empowering to say, I can leave this alone. I can trust in an intelligence within my body to heal whatever shows up. I no longer had to frantically, like a bunny, hop from one physician to the next, one acupuncturist to the next, one chiropractor to the next, one neurologist to the next. I no longer had to do this, and this created a spark. And that spark was, I could also be who I felt genuinely like, a new identity around other people. I could present a new energy to the world. I could present a new look, a more empowering posture, a slower speed. And let me tell you this is important. You can't do it without any skill sets. You need to have a handful of skill sets in your arsenal that you practice on a daily basis until you feel like, you know what, I've outgrown these skill sets and maybe I'll come back to them later on and now it's a different chapter in my life. But you have to implement some skill sets that allow you to become emotionally invested in a new idea, emotionally invested in new habits, because there are too many people out there that wake up and say, what do I do? What do I do for my anxiety? You know what? You may be doing all the right things, but you're not emotionally invested in what it is you're doing. Therefore, you're not getting anything out of it. It wasn't until I found that my body was starting to release some of the suppressed feelings and emotions that I was actually healing. So, yes, all of this work was being done. All of these new epiphanies I was meeting with, new clarities, and I started to understand how I got to where I was. I also started to understand what was perpetuating my anxiety. And the biggest thing that was perpetuating my anxiety was I was carrying around a label that I didn't believe in. The label was given to me. The label was anxiety. So no matter what I did, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, I had to check in with my anxiety to make sure it was okay to do so. Are you sure it's okay to meet with that person? Are you sure it's okay to engage in this unfamiliar experience? Are you sure it's okay to leave this sensation or symptom in the body alone? Are you sure it's okay to investigate new ways of understanding source energy and God? Are you sure it's okay to be spiritual in some aspect of your life? And the answer was always no, of course, because anxiety always says, go back to your comfort zones, right? Be who you've always been because it's been safe to do so. You've stayed alive. Nothing's gone wrong from the perspective of your subconscious mind. Therefore, the inner child / subconscious mind always does everything in its power to keep us from changing. But getting back to this epiphany, the epiphany that I didn't care whether a disease, an illness, a pain arose in my body, and I could leave it alone. And that scares a lot of people, because a lot of people say, well, what if it gets worse? Right? What if this illness or disease gets worse? What if I don't catch it in time? Just with the attitude that you bring to the day of looking to catch it early enough is keeping you standing guard. And if you keep a standing guard mindset, you're going to live in survival. You're never going to live in creation. And let me tell you something. Too many people today are waiting for something on the outside to happen in order for them to be free of their anxiety. You may be waiting forever. Instead, look within, ask yourself some deep questions, okay? And begin re-identifying with somebody else. As I mentioned in my recent Instagram Live, I started to attach myself to the words, the one. The one? Yeah. I started to see myself in the mirror as the one. The one was my new identity, not anxiety, but I was the one. So I asked myself a very important question. Does anger fit in the one? The answer was no. Does fear fit in the one? No. I can't bring these feelings with me. I can't be the same person I was with anxiety and expect a completely different life. So it was very important for me to be honest with myself and say, I can't bring this way of thinking. I can't bring these old traumas. I can't bring the same friends even to this identity that I'm trying to create for myself. You have to take an inventory and go, well, what can I bring? I can bring self-love. I can bring unconditional love with me. I can bring self-appreciation. I can bring empowerment. I can even bring negative feelings with me, such as anxiousness, if you want to deem it a negative feeling, but I don't have to bring anxiety with me. At some point in this journey, you will feel sad, angry, anxious, whatever it is, but you don't have to live there anymore. So it's okay to experience these fleeting feelings, but you don't have to give them focus and energy anymore. Therefore, they don't become a disorder. My friends, I want you to understand that you now have permission to believe something different about yourself. You now have permission to engage in habits, thinking, physiological, emotional, imaginative. You can engage in habits that feel unfamiliar and awkward. You can begin changing things in your internal world and therefore reap the rewards in a short period of time. You don't have to bring anxiety with you everywhere you go. You don't have to check in with anxiety no matter what you do. You don't have to ask permission from anxiety to do something you want to do. Who's leading? Who's the captain of your ship? Is the inner child leading? Or is your upgraded, updated, conscious beliefs leading the way. At any given moment throughout the day, that's the question. Is the inner child leading, or am I leading? Warriors, take something from this podcast episode. Please, take something from it. Take a moment of clarity. Take a lesson from it. Take a willingness. Take some inspiration, some motivation from this, and add it to your journey. Because soon you're going to look back and go, wow, I've really come a long way. And that's a magical moment. Spend time in that moment. Don't allow it to be fleeting. Really spend time. Be invested in your progress. And the more invested you are in your progress, the more good feelings will arise. The more good feelings arise within you, the more you will identify with being these good feelings, my friends. You have the permission now. So have the courage to see change differently. Have the courage to move away from anxiety and into something completely different. Something that you are not familiar with. A new world. A new place. A new lifestyle. A new mindset. Allow yourself to live here. Allow yourself to be consumed with self-love and appreciation and acceptance because you deserve it. Remember that you are more than anxiety. I'll see you in the next podcast episode. I love you. Bye-bye.
The most powerful anxiety guidebooks on true anxiety recovery are now available on Amazon. Pick up Beyond Anxiety and F Coping, Start Healing, and supercharge your healing journey today. Also visit www.theanxietyguy.com to connect with Dennis and find the right online program for you. Remember, you are more than anxiety. See you in the next podcast episode.